Nothing changes until you do, so force yourself to take action before your life forces you to regret it. If you've been stuck overthinking, delaying, or waiting for the perfect moment to start, this is your turning point. This isn't another motivational talk that fades after 5 minutes. This is a direct, no-nonsense guide to help you stop making excuses and finally start doing the things you've been putting off. Whether it's your health, your goals, your mindset, or your habits, everything starts changing the moment you stop waiting and start acting. In this video, you'll learn how to move when you don't feel like it, how to keep going when it's boring, how to build daily discipline, and how to take control of your time, energy, and direction. We're going to break it all down in a way that's simple, clear, and easy to apply. No big words, no complicated routines, just real practical tools to help you move forward right now. Stay locked in, because if you absorb what's in this video and apply it, your days will start to look different, and so will your future. Chapter 1. Force yourself to start before you're ready. You will never change your life until you change what you do daily, and no change ever begins without a starting point. So today, this moment, right now, I want you to understand something that might sting a little, but it's the truth that can change everything for you. You've been waiting too long. You've convinced yourself that one day you'll feel ready, that some magical spark will appear, that some perfect moment will show up out of nowhere and give you permission to begin. But that perfect moment is never coming. It doesn't exist. It never did. And deep down, you already know that. People don't fail because they don't have potential. They fail because they don't take the first step. They sit on ideas, they wait on motivation, they stay on the sidelines, and every day they wait, every hour they delay, that fire inside them dims a little more. What you need isn't another reminder that you're capable. What you need is someone to say this out loud, and say it clearly. You don't need to feel ready to change your life. You just need to begin. Starting is uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right. It's scary, it's awkward, and it never looks like the perfect picture in your head. But that's exactly why most people don't do it. They think their fear means they're not prepared. They think that nervous energy means they should wait. They tell themselves they'll do it when the timing feels right. But growth doesn't wait. The window of opportunity doesn't open forever. And your future doesn't care how you feel. It's waiting for what you do. You have dreams, goals, visions inside of you, but they're just thoughts until you take action. Ideas are everywhere. Everyone has them. Execution, that's rare. The ones who move, the ones who start before they feel fully confident, before they have all the answers, before they're ready, those are the ones who grow. Those are the ones who win. And I want you to be one of them. Let me tell you the truth that flips everything. Clarity doesn't come first. Confidence doesn't come first. Readiness doesn't come first. Action does. The moment you start, your brain begins to shift. You learn faster, you grow stronger, and you find your rhythm. It's never about having it all figured out. It's about making your move and figuring it out as you go. No one ever built greatness by waiting until it felt comfortable. Greatness begins the second you decide to do it anyway, even when the fear is screaming, even when the doubt is loud, even when your hands are shaking. Especially then, if you're still telling yourself, "I'm not ready," what you're really saying is, "I'm afraid." And fear doesn't go away with time, it goes away with movement. Fear is a liar. It exaggerates. It multiplies everything that could go wrong and minimizes everything that could go right. It makes you feel like starting is the enemy, when really, It's the only thing that can rescue you from the version of yourself that you're trying to outgrow. There will never be a perfect time to start. There will always be bills to pay, distractions to fight, self-doubt to silence. There will always be people who don't believe in you, reasons to stay the same, and emotions that tell you to wait. But those who change their lives, those who become who they were meant to be, they start anyway. And when you start before you're ready, you teach yourself something that no book, no quote, and no video can teach you. You teach yourself that you're stronger than you thought, that you can do hard things, that you are not the person who backs down, you are not the person who waits forever. And I know the first step is the hardest. It's supposed to be that resistance you feel, that voice in your head saying, you're not ready, you don't know enough, you might fail. That voice isn't there to stop you, it's there to test you. It's asking, how bad do you want it? And you have to answer with action. Think about how many things in your life would change if you just took the first step. If you just started writing the book, instead of planning it for another year. If you just started the workout, instead of watching more fitness videos. If you just had the conversation, instead of waiting for the right moment. How many new habits, new results, new breakthroughs are hiding on the other side of the first action you keep delaying? You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You don't need to feel perfectly ready. What you need is to do something now. You need to break the pattern of hesitation. You need to move. Because action is how you break fear. Action is how you find your rhythm. Action is how you create momentum. You cannot think your way into a new life. You act your way there. You earn your confidence by doing the thing you're afraid of, again and again, until it's no longer fear, it's power. And listen, don't make the mistake of thinking your first step has to be huge. It doesn't. Small steps done consistently are more powerful than big steps never taken. It's not about impressing anyone. It's not about being perfect. It's about doing the thing that future you will thank you for. It's about proving to yourself today that you are no longer waiting for a sign. You are the sign. You are no longer hoping that change shows up. You're creating the change with your own hands. If you can start when it's hard, you'll have a strength most people never build. If you can move when your brain is screaming, wait, then you'll discover a level of control and courage that most people never access. This is how real transformation begins. Not with more thinking, not with more planning, but with movement. Movement creates progress. Movement rewires your identity. Movement builds momentum, but none of that happens until you start. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop watching others do what you're capable of doing. I want you to stop putting it off until next week, next month, next year. I want you to stop saying, one day, because if you don't start now, when will you? What if 5 years from now, you're still telling yourself the same story, that you're not ready? What if you keep waiting, and nothing changes? What if the only thing standing between the life you want and the life you're stuck in, is you? You're not short on time. You're not short on talent. You're not short on potential. You're just short on action. And that's the easiest thing to fix, if you stop letting fear write your story. Let this be the moment you choose something different. Let this be the moment you decide that waiting is over. Let this be the start of your new identity. The one where you don't wait to feel ready. The one where you move forward even when your voice shakes. The one where you trust your power more than your fear. Force yourself to start before you're ready. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. Because your future doesn't care how scared you are. It only cares what you're willing to do about it. And you're not meant to live stuck. You're meant to live free. But freedom doesn't come from wishing, it comes from doing. And it begins the moment you decide that your life is too important to delay any longer. So take the step, even if it's small, even if it's messy, even if it's terrifying. Take it. Your future is waiting. Chapter 2. Force yourself to do it when you don't feel like it. Every successful person you admire, every champion you've watched rise, every individual you look at and think they've got it all figured out, they all have one thing in common that separates them from the crowd. It's not talent, it's not motivation, it's the discipline to show up and do the work when they absolutely don't feel like it. That's the secret. That's the edge. And once you learn how to force yourself to take action when your mind says no, when your body feels tired, when your emotions are screaming for comfort, that's when everything in your life begins to shift. You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when you fight through the mental fog, the fatigue, the doubt, and still get it done. You grow when you master the art of showing up, even when every part of you is telling you to delay, to wait, to rest. Every day, life hands you moments when your feelings are completely against your goals. Moments when nothing inside of you feels like doing what you said you would. Moments when your comfort is more seductive than your commitment. And it's in those moments that your future is either built or broken. You either move or you sit. You either act or you excuse. You either push or you pull away. And what most don't realize is that the habit of doing what you don't feel like doing is the most powerful weapon you can develop. Because if you only work when you're in the mood, if you only show up when it feels easy, you will always be at the mercy of your emotions. Let's be real for a minute. How many times have you said you were going to start something, and then when the time came, you talked yourself out of it? How many mornings have you hit snooze because the bed felt better than the grind? How many workouts have you skipped? How many tasks have you delayed? How many goals have you let sit on the shelf because you just didn't feel like it in the moment? That's the pattern that keeps people average. That's the pattern that kills potential. And the only way out of that trap is to start doing the hard thing when you're least in the mood for it. The mind loves comfort. It's wired to keep you safe, to preserve energy, to avoid stress. But success doesn't live in comfort. Greatness doesn't grow in ease. Every time you feel like skipping the work and you choose to do it anyway, you're not just getting closer to your goals, you're building a level of self-respect that no one can take from you. That's the reward. You start to look at yourself differently. You stop needing hype to act. You stop depending on emotion to move. You realize you've become the kind of person who keeps going regardless of how they feel. And that's a mental shift that will follow you into every area of life. The reality is, your feelings will lie to you constantly. Your feelings will tell you to take it easy, to do it tomorrow, to relax today. But the version of you that achieves big things, that version doesn't listen to feelings, they listen to standards. That version gets out of bed even when it hurts. That version opens the laptop, puts in the reps, studies the material, makes the call, sends the email, shows up on time, not because they're in the mood, but because they said they would. And this is the part people overlook. Motivation comes and goes. It's like the wind. Some days you have it, some days you don't. If your life depends on motivation, you'll be stuck in cycles forever. Up and down, hot and cold, on and off. But if you build discipline, if you start forcing yourself to act without asking how you feel first, everything stabilizes. You become consistent, and consistency is what separates the dreamers from the doers. It's not supposed to feel good every time. It's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. That's what growth feels like. If it's easy, you're not growing. If it's always enjoyable, you're not pushing. And that's why the best thing you can do is lean into those days when you don't want to do it and do it anyway. That's when you win the real battle. And here's the honest truth. The days you don't feel like doing it are the most important days to show up. Anyone can be disciplined when they're inspired. That's easy, but real strength, real transformation, comes from doing it when everything inside you says no. That's how you train your mind. That's how you become a force. You start to realize that discipline is a muscle, and every time you flex it against resistance, it gets stronger. I get it. Some days you're tired, some days you're overwhelmed, some days you're discouraged. But if you only operate when conditions are perfect, you'll never build anything meaningful. Life doesn't reward people who wait for the mood to strike. It rewards people who act, regardless of the mood. So when your alarm goes off and you want to roll over, get up. When it's time to work and you want to scroll your phone, refocus. When it's easier to stay home than go to the gym, move your body anyway, because the life you want isn't built on comfort, it's built on effort. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but I am saying you have to be consistent. One day missed becomes 2 days become a week becomes a month, and soon the thing you were trying to build becomes the thing you gave up on. That's the cost of letting how you feel control what you do. But the opposite is just as true. One day of discipline becomes 2 days become a streak becomes a habit. And before you know it, the thing you once avoided becomes the thing you crave. That's the flip that happens when you force yourself to do it when you don't feel like it. You stop being a slave to your moods and start becoming the master of your actions. You start building a mindset that doesn't wait for the right moment, but creates it through sheer will. And that version of you, that version doesn't just make progress, they make transformation look inevitable. Don't wait for the perfect morning. Don't wait to feel excited. Don't wait for the right energy, the right playlist, the right weather. The real you doesn't need ideal conditions. The real you creates discipline in chaos. The real you shows up even when it's cold, even when you're tired, even when you've got 100 reasons to skip it. The real you moves because you said you would. You want the truth. Most of your success will come down to whether or not you do the work on the days you don't feel like it. That's the truth. It won't come from motivation. It won't come from inspiration. It'll come from grit, from resilience, from your ability to say, I don't care how I feel, I'm doing it anyway. And once you make that your mindset, once that becomes who you are, you stop needing motivation altogether. You become the storm. So from now on, stop waiting for the mood. Stop looking for the feeling. Stop hoping that discipline will magically show up one day. Build it yourself. And the way you build it is simple. Do the thing, especially when you don't feel like it. Because when you do, you're not just making progress, you're creating power. And that kind of power, it changes everything. Chapter 3. Force yourself to break the comfort addiction. If you want to completely change your life, you must be willing to do something the average person will never do. You must break your addiction to comfort. That one decision alone can be the turning point in everything, from your habits, to your health, to your income, to your mindset. Because comfort is seductive, it lures you in, slowly, quietly. It makes you believe that rest, relaxation, and pleasure should be your default setting. It convinces you that hard things can always wait until tomorrow, that you've done enough for the day, that you deserve a little more ease before effort. And by the time you realize what's happened, you're trapped. Not physically, not visibly, but mentally stuck in a cycle that feels safe but leads nowhere. Comfort is the slowest form of failure. It doesn't hurt at first. In fact, it feels nice. But every day that you choose it over challenge, every time you trade growth for ease, you're giving up momentum. You're giving up your edge. You're choosing to stay the same, and that choice is what makes life feel heavier, duller, more frustrating over time. You weren't built to be still. You were built to move, to create, to chase. And the longer you stay addicted to what's easy, the more you'll struggle with what's meaningful. The truth is, your goals will demand things from you that comfort will never allow. You cannot become who you're meant to be if you're constantly avoiding discomfort. You cannot build strength while hiding from the struggle. You cannot find your full potential while clinging to your softest habits. The couch might feel good now, but it's costing you a stronger body. That extra hour of sleep might feel earned, but it's costing you momentum. That skipped workout, that missed opportunity, that delayed decision, they might all feel harmless in the moment, but over time they compound into disappointment. And that's the cost of comfort. It robs your future while making the present feel safe. But here's the shift. Once you start doing the opposite, everything changes. Once you start seeking out discomfort on purpose, once you begin to lean into hard things, once you force yourself to choose the challenge, even when it's inconvenient, you begin to unlock a power inside of you that's been waiting to be used. And that power doesn't just make you tougher, it gives you peace. Because now you're not dodging the work, you're attacking it. Now you're not hiding from growth, you're chasing it. Now you're not sitting around wondering when things will get better, you're making them better, brick by brick, day by day, one disciplined decision at a time. It's not about becoming obsessed with pain or making life harder just to prove a point. It's about training your mind to understand that discomfort is not a signal to quit, it's a signal to go. When you get comfortable being uncomfortable, you unlock freedom, real freedom. Because you're no longer a prisoner to your moods. You're no longer a slave to your excuses. You're no longer controlled by that inner voice that whispers, "Take it easy." You become stronger than your cravings. You become louder than your laziness. You become sharper, more focused, more grounded. Think about the moments in your life where you felt the most alive, the most proud, the most connected to who you are. Were they moments of ease, or were they moments of effort? I guarantee it wasn't when you were lying around doing nothing. It was when you were pushing through. When you were sweating, struggling, showing up when it would have been easier to quit. That's where pride is built. That's where your character is developed. That's where confidence comes from, not from reading it, not from watching others do it, but from living it. And I know it's hard. I know it's not always motivating. But this isn't about motivation. It's about becoming the kind of person who does hard things without needing to be hyped, who shows up without applause, who pushes forward without a spotlight. That's what separates the elite from the average. It's not luck, it's not talent, it's the willingness to suffer on purpose, to do what others won't, to make friends with the uncomfortable and turn it into a weapon. Start small, wake up earlier than you want to, take a cold shower even though you hate it, go to the gym when you're sore, have the difficult conversation instead of avoiding it, choose work over entertainment. Say no to the easy food, the lazy night, the comfortable escape. Every time you do this, you're rewiring your identity. You're building a new standard. You're proving to yourself that your feelings don't run the show anymore. Your mission does. And when your mission becomes louder than your need for comfort, you become unstoppable. You want the edge in life. You want the breakthrough, the transformation, the results. Then train yourself to do the opposite of what comfort wants. When you want to quit, go harder. When you want to stop, go longer. When you want to take it easy, raise the standard. When you feel resistance, lean in, because resistance isn't a wall, it's the gateway. The fact that it's uncomfortable is the very reason you need to do it. This is what high performers understand. This is what winners embrace. They know that if they can control their relationship with comfort, they can control their destiny. Because comfort is the most subtle enemy you'll ever face. It never attacks you outright. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It tells you to rest when you need to rise. It tells you to wait when you should be moving. It tells you that average is good enough. And it sounds convincing until it costs you another year of your life doing less than what you're capable of. So the question becomes, how badly do you want it? How far are you willing to go? How much are you ready to trade comfort for control? Because your future is waiting. It's watching. It's testing you. It's asking if you're willing to do what's necessary. Not when it's easy, but especially when it's not. And if the answer is yes, then it starts today, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Now you don't need a new life plan. You need to take new action. You need to look comfort in the face and say, you no longer control me. You need to stop running from the hard and run toward it. Because the hard is where the growth is. The hard is where your real strength is buried. The hard is where the life you want is hiding. And every time you resist comfort and choose growth, you're not just changing your day, you're changing your identity. You're becoming that rare kind of person who actually lives by discipline, not just talks about it. And that kind of person, they don't get average results. They don't settle for average emotions. They don't accept average days. They live with purpose. They move with urgency. They lead themselves, and because of that, they lead their lives. Chapter 4. Force yourself to stop overthinking. If you're tired of watching your potential slip through your fingers, if you're sick of knowing deep down you could be doing more, becoming more, creating more, but you're always stuck in the same cycle of thoughts, then it's time to get brutally honest with yourself. Overthinking is not intelligence. It's not wisdom. It's the most dangerous form of procrastination because it wears a mask that looks like productivity. But behind that mask is hesitation, fear, and mental self-sabotage disguised as logic. The longer you overthink, the further you drift from action, and the more distance you create between where you are and where you're trying to go. This is where so many people waste years, trapped in their heads, chasing perfect answers, planning endlessly, but never moving. When you live in your head too long, you become a prisoner of possibilities. You weigh every angle, analyze every outcome, over-explain every emotion, and in the end, nothing gets done. And here's the part that hurts. You convince yourself that thinking through everything is a strength. But if it doesn't lead to action, it's not strength. It's delay. It's paralysis. It's what turns potential into regret. And you don't need more clarity to escape it. You need a decision. You need movement. You need to take control of your mind before it talks you out of everything that matters. Action doesn't come after confidence. It creates it. You don't need more time to think. You don't need a better plan. You need to break the cycle right now. The human brain is designed to keep you safe. It's built to anticipate danger. So when you think about doing something that pushes you outside your normal zone, your mind goes into overdrive. It tries to keep you from failing, from being embarrassed, from feeling exposed. But here's what you've got to get. It's not protecting you. It's limiting you. That overthinking is costing you more than failure ever could. You don't need protection from discomfort. You need exposure to it. You need to get used to moving with uncertainty, because that's how the strongest version of you is built. Every day you overthink, you reinforce hesitation. Every time you hesitate, you reinforce the identity of someone who waits. And every time you wait, life moves forward without you. The opportunities don't pause. The momentum doesn't wait for you to catch up. The version of you that acts, the version that wins, is on the other side of that mental cage you keep building. And the only way to break it down is to stop feeding it with more thought. The mind only has power over you when you give it control. And the second you interrupt the pattern with action, you take that power back. Think about how many moments you've let slip through your hands because you couldn't decide. How many times you knew what you needed to do, but you let the thought spiral so far out of control that the moment passed. That pattern has to end. Not next month. Not next week. Today, you have to force yourself to act before your brain talks you out of it. That's the only way to kill the cycle. Overthinking dies in the face of movement. The minute you do something, send the message, make the call, walk into the room, step onto the floor, the cycle breaks. And with every little action, your confidence builds. Your courage grows. Your identity evolves. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to move. You'll learn more from 10 minutes of action than from 10 hours of overthinking. Action teaches you what thought never can. You get feedback. You gain clarity. You adjust faster. You stop asking what if and start answering it through experience. That's where real progress happens, not in your head, but in the real world. And the more you move, the easier it gets to trust yourself. Because deep down, that's what this is really about. Overthinking isn't a thinking problem. It's a trust problem. You've stopped trusting your instincts. You've stopped trusting your ability to handle the unknown. But trust doesn't come from sitting still. It comes from doing what you said you would do, even when you're unsure, even when it's messy, even when it scares you. This is where discipline becomes your weapon. You don't need to feel certain to take action. You just need to commit to moving every time you start spiraling in your thoughts. The moment you catch yourself replaying scenarios, worrying about opinions, asking the same question over and over, you stop. You move. You decide. Because that habit, if you let it grow unchecked, will drain your confidence one decision at a time. You don't have to solve everything today. You just have to take the next step, and the next, and the next, until your brain learns that you don't need certainty to win. You just need to show up and act. It's okay to be unsure. It's okay to be scared, but it's not okay to keep using that as an excuse to stay frozen. You know what needs to be done. You've known for a while, the ideas you've had, the conversations you've avoided, the goals you keep talking about but haven't touched. They're not waiting on clarity. They're waiting on you. So move. Get messy. Make mistakes. Learn on the way. Because the person who acts will always outgrow the person who waits. Every time. Don't let your thoughts steal another moment of your life. Don't let them convince you that someday will be better. You can waste your whole life building castles in your mind and never lay a single brick in the real world. You don't want to look back 10 years from now and realize that the only thing that ever held you back was your own overthinking. You want to look back and see scars, battle marks, wins, losses, growth. You want to know that you lived fully, that you tried, that you moved. And that starts now. So from this moment on, whenever you feel that loop starting, when your mind begins to swirl with doubt, when you feel yourself pausing too long, interrupt it. Say out loud, "Stop. I'm acting now," and then do something, anything, to break the pattern. Pick up the phone, open the laptop, send the message, walk out the door. Small actions break big chains. And the more you do this, the faster you become at recognizing when you're slipping into thought and pulling yourself back into action. This is how you take your power back. This is how you regain control over your life. This is how you become someone who doesn't just dream or plan or think, but someone who builds, someone who creates, someone who moves the needle every single day, whether they feel ready or not. So stop feeding the mental storm. Stop making overthinking your home. You weren't made to live in your head. You were made to move in the world. And the more you move, the more unstoppable you become. Chapter 5. Force yourself to keep going when it's boring. Success doesn't happen when you're excited. It doesn't show up when everything feels new and fun. It happens in the grind, in the repetition, in the moments where everything feels quiet, boring, and routine. The truth is, if you want to do something meaningful, if you want to become someone unshakable, you have to learn how to fall in love with doing the same things every single day. That's where the breakthrough hides. Not in the thrill of the beginning, but in your ability to keep going when the excitement is gone, and it's just you, your plan, and the silence that tries to talk you out of it. This is the part that separates the ones who talk from the ones who walk. Because it's easy to be fired up in the beginning. It's easy to stay motivated for a week, maybe even a month. But what about when that first burst of energy fades? What about when you've done it 100 times and the results aren't showing up as fast as you want? What about when nobody is watching, when the music stops, and all that's left is your commitment? That's when it gets real. That's where the truth shows up. And that's exactly when you need to keep going. You have to understand that boredom is not a sign you're doing something wrong. Boredom is a sign that you're right in the middle of building something powerful. But your mind will try to convince you otherwise. It'll whisper that you've done enough, that you should try something new, that this can wait, that you've earned a break. And if you listen to that voice, you'll quit without even realizing it. You won't call it quitting. You'll say you're pivoting. You'll say you're adjusting. But deep down you'll know. You'll know that you just didn't have the discipline to keep going when it got dull. The real ones, the ones who go all the way, they don't chase excitement, they chase consistency. They know that repetition is the training ground of greatness. You want to be great at something. You better be ready to do it so often that it becomes part of your DNA. You better be ready to wake up and do it even when every part of you is over it. Because that's what professionals do. That's what winners do. They show up when they feel like it, and they show up when they don't. They don't need fireworks to keep moving. They've made a decision that who they want to become matters more than how they feel. When you're trying to build a new life, the early stages feel amazing. Everything is new. You feel proud. You're being noticed. It's exciting. But then the grind sets in. Then it's just one foot in front of the other. Day after day, week after week. You start wondering if it's even working. You look around and the progress feels invisible. But here's the twist. Those boring days, that's where the real transformation is happening. Not on the loud days. Not when people are clapping for you. But in the quiet. When it's just you and the habit. When it's just you and the schedule. When it's just you and the decision to not give up. Think about an athlete training for a championship. Think about a musician preparing for a world tour. Think about a writer crafting their masterpiece. It's not glamorous. It's not all inspiration. It's lonely. It's repetitive. It's showing up over and over again, sharpening the same tools, hitting the same notes, writing the same lines, and doing it with the belief that it's building something bigger than what you can see right now. You have to adopt that same mindset. You have to stop looking for excitement and start building endurance. Every single time you repeat the same habit, even when you're bored, you're reinforcing your discipline. Every time you keep going when it feels stale, you're proving to yourself that you're serious. That's how you build a foundation that doesn't crack when things get tough. That's how you train your mind to work even when your mood doesn't match. That's how you get ahead of everyone who gave up, because the rush wore off, because they were never really committed, they were just entertained. Let me tell you something that will keep you grounded when you're tempted to stop. Momentum doesn't come from motivation. It comes from movement. You want to get back in the zone. You don't need more hype. You don't need more inspiration. You need to do the work. No matter how dull it feels, no matter how slow it seems, you need to show up, even when it's not exciting, even when nobody's watching, even when your brain is screaming to take a break. Because on the other side of that resistance is a version of you that's stronger, sharper, and more focused than ever. If you can learn to push through boredom, you can accomplish almost anything. Because once you stop depending on how something feels and start depending on what you've committed to, you become unstoppable. That's the skill most people never develop. They quit too early. They start looking for shortcuts. They get distracted by novelty. But not you. You're not here to play halfway. You're here to see it through, to take it to the end, to keep going long after the fun disappears. So what do you do when you wake up and the fire's not burning? You don't negotiate. You execute. You follow the plan you made when your vision was clear, not the feelings that show up when your energy is low. You get up. You do the reps. You put in the time. Because discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline just acts. And every time you act when it's boring, you're stacking a level of mental strength that no one can take from you. And one day it hits you. All those boring reps, all those quiet mornings, all those sessions where you pushed through, even though you didn't want to, that's the compound effect that launches you into a league of your own. That's what separates you from everyone else who couldn't handle the stillness, who couldn't stomach the slow parts of growth. Because that's what it really comes down to. How well you handle the boring stuff. How long you're willing to stay in the tunnel without seeing the light and still keep walking. So the next time it all feels dry, dull and unmotivating, remember why you started. Remember the life you're building. Remember that the real reward doesn't come to those who do it sometimes. It comes to the ones who do it daily, even when it's hard, even when it's repetitive, even when it's boring, especially then. Chapter 6. Force yourself to destroy the excuse loop. You will never take full control of your life until you stop giving yourself a way out, and that starts the moment you destroy the excuse loop. Because every single time you tell yourself, "I'll do it later," "I'm too tired," "I'm not ready," "I've got too much going on," it's just not the right time. You are not protecting your energy. You are handing over your power. You are not preserving your future. You are postponing it. The excuse loop is the most dangerous habit of all because it doesn't sound like quitting. It sounds reasonable. It sounds logical. It sounds like a valid reason to delay. But that's the trap. That's the cycle that slowly erodes your belief in yourself until all you've got left are plans with no progress, potential with no results, and dreams that never see the light of day. And the worst part, You probably believe those excuses. You say them so often, they start to feel like truth. But the moment you see them for what they really are, mental habits designed to protect your comfort, you take your power back. Excuses are not harmless. Excuses are decisions. They are choices you make every time you let your feelings override your responsibility. Every time you accept one, you're telling your brain that avoiding effort is more important than achieving success. And your brain listens. It builds patterns around your decisions. So the more you excuse yourself from the work, the more automatic that pattern becomes. Before long, you're not even aware of how often you're letting yourself off the hook. You just assume you'll get to it eventually. But eventually never comes for people who live in the loop. If you want to break this cycle, you need to stop seeing your excuses as harmless thoughts and start seeing them as enemies to your potential. You need to hear that voice in your head and stop giving it authority, because that voice is not the real you. That's the part of your brain designed to keep you safe, not successful. It's trying to keep you from discomfort, but discomfort is exactly what's required to grow. You cannot improve and stay the same at the same time. You cannot evolve and avoid effort. You cannot reach your goals while negotiating with laziness. So every time you hear yourself reaching for an excuse, recognize it for what it is: resistance, and resistance must be crushed with movement, not negotiated with. Excuses love urgency. They love when you feel stressed, tired, uncertain. They show up when you're weak. But if you let your emotions decide your behavior, you will always lose. You need to decide once and for all that you're not going to let your life be controlled by temporary feelings. You are stronger than that. You are more capable than that. But strength only shows up when you decide that your standards are more important than your struggles. That's when things begin to change, not when life gets easier, but when you get harder to break. You have to understand that the mind doesn't respect words. It respects actions. So if you say you want to change, if you say you want success, but your behavior keeps reinforcing the habit of excuses, your brain isn't buying it. And that's why confidence stays low. That's why you feel stuck. That's why you struggle to stay consistent. Because deep down you don't trust yourself to follow through. Not because you're incapable, but because your identity has been built on convenience instead of commitment. But that can change today. And it doesn't require perfection. It just requires one simple rule: no more excuses. And I know it's hard to make that shift. It's hard to hear yourself say, "I don't have time," and call it what it is: a lie. It's hard to admit that you've been avoiding your goals out of fear, not facts. It's hard to take ownership when blaming circumstances is so much easier. But if you want power, you have to choose truth over comfort. That's the only way to build the kind of life that actually fulfills you. And once you start doing that consistently, something powerful happens. Your mindset starts to shift. You stop looking for reasons to avoid. You start looking for ways to overcome. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You start creating the conditions by showing up every single day, no matter what. You become dangerous in the best way possible. Because now you're someone who acts despite fear, who moves through resistance, who shows up when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's cold, when it's inconvenient. You become the kind of person who scares excuses away before they even show up. And the people around you notice. They see the shift. They feel the energy. And whether they say it or not, they respect it. Because deep down they wish they had it too. You don't need to fix everything overnight. But you do need to stop giving yourself reasons to delay. You need to stop justifying your bad habits with emotional logic. You need to draw a line in the sand and say, from this moment on, I don't break my own promises. Because that's what excuses really are. They're broken promises to yourself, and every time you break one, you chip away at your identity. But every time you keep one, you build it back, stronger, sharper, more aligned with the person you want to become. This is the part that hits hardest. The longer you live inside the excuse loop, the more you start to believe that the life you want is out of reach. But it's not. It's right there, on the other side of action, on the other side of honesty, on the other side of taking full ownership of your choices and saying, I'm done letting feelings control my future. You don't need to wait for a new month or a new year or a new plan. You need to act now, with what you have, where you are. No delays, no stories, no escape routes, just effort, just discipline, just real work. And yes, it will be uncomfortable, but you're not here for comfort. You're here for growth. You're here to become the kind of person who doesn't need to be pushed, who doesn't need to be convinced, who doesn't need external motivation to do what they said they would do. You're here to become someone who gets it done. Period. No excuses, no exceptions, just execution. So the next time that voice shows up telling you to wait, to stop, to quit, talk back. Remind yourself that voice has lied to you before. It told you to stay in bed when you needed to rise. It told you to quit when you were close. It told you to slow down when momentum was building. Don't give that voice another win. Starve it with action. Kill it with discipline. Replace it with movement. This is your time to take back control, to silence the inner negotiator, to step into a mindset where excuses don't stand a chance. Because when you live without excuses, you don't just change your habits, you change your entire life. And that kind of change, that starts now. Chapter 7. Force yourself to set ruthless standards. If you want to transform your life, if you're serious about building a future that looks nothing like your past, you have to raise the standard. You have to make a personal decision that from this day forward, nothing below your best is acceptable. Not in your effort, not in your mindset, not in your relationships, and not in the way you treat your time, your energy, or your vision. Because until you stop negotiating with your limits, until you stop tolerating laziness, until you stop lowering the bar every time life gets hard, you will stay stuck in cycles that look impressive from the outside, but feel hollow on the inside. And that's the truth that most people avoid. It's not that you don't have the potential, it's that your standards are too soft to pull your potential out of you. Success doesn't come from what you want. It comes from what you're willing to demand from yourself daily. When you set ruthless standards, you stop doing things for applause. You stop acting based on convenience. You stop measuring your day by how you feel and start measuring it by what got done. That's when life changes. That's when people start asking you how you did it. That's when the progress becomes undeniable. Not because of luck, not because of timing, but because you finally decided to stop living with one foot in and one foot out. You've got to understand something. Every standard you set is either building the future you want or reinforcing the one you're trying to escape. Every time you say, "This is good enough," you're setting a tone for what you allow to continue. And what you allow continues to shape you. The more you tolerate low effort, the more it becomes your identity. But the opposite is just as powerful. The more you hold the line, the more you act like the person you're trying to become, the more your life starts to shift to match that energy. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens every single day you stop accepting average from yourself. People think raising your standards means pushing harder. It's not about pressure, it's about alignment. It's about saying, "This is who I am now, and this is how I operate, no matter what." It means you stop showing up when it's easy, and start showing up because it's necessary. It means you start treating your word like law. When you say you're going to do something, it gets done. Not because it's fun, not because it's convenient, but because it reflects your standard, and your standard reflects your future. This is where discipline and identity collide. When your standard becomes non-negotiable, you stop arguing with yourself. You stop needing motivation. You stop asking, should I do this today? And instead say, this is just what I do. That mindset is how real transformation sticks. That mindset is how you go from relying on discipline to becoming discipline. It's not something you try anymore. It's who you are. And when your identity rises, everything around you starts rising with it. Look around your life right now. Look at your habits. Look at your circle. Look at your results. Everything you see is a reflection of what you've allowed. You can't escape that. You can't fake your way around it. If your environment is weak, it's because your standards allowed it to be. If your progress is slow, it's because your standards haven't demanded more. If your days feel average, it's because your standards have settled into the background instead of leading the way. That might sound harsh, but it's the kind of truth that saves people from staying stuck for years. The second you stop tolerating your own excuses, the second you stop accepting the bare minimum from yourself, the second you set a new bar and say, this is where I live now, everything begins to change. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop depending on other people. You start owning your energy. You start protecting your peace. You start eliminating distractions that don't match your new direction. And suddenly, you start moving with purpose instead of pressure. It's not about being perfect. It's about refusing to be casual. It's about being intentional with your effort. It's about waking up with the mindset that says, I don't do half effort. I don't play around with my future. I don't coast through life hoping something clicks. Because nothing clicks until you do. And you click the moment you decide that who you want to become is more important than how you feel right now. You're not doing this to impress people. You're doing it to finally live in alignment with the version of you that you keep imagining in your head. That version isn't built on comfort. It's built on consistent, focused, relentless effort. And yes, it'll cost you. It'll cost you old habits. It'll cost you shallow friendships. It'll cost you lazy weekends and easy choices, but it'll give you back your power. It'll give you back your focus. It'll give you back your hunger. And that is a trade you want to make every single day. The world will adjust to your standard. When you raise it, you force everything around you to either rise with you or fall away. And that's exactly what needs to happen. You don't owe your energy to the version of your life that was built on low expectations. You owe your energy to the life that's still waiting to be built, the one that matches your highest vision, your deepest purpose, and your strongest discipline. When you wake up tomorrow, don't aim for average. Don't settle for what's good enough. Don't walk through the day like a passenger. Take over the wheel. Decide that today, everything you do is going to reflect who you want to be, not what's easiest in the moment. Don't give effort based on mood. Give effort based on standard. Whether it's your health, your business, your mindset, your relationships, put yourself in the kind of motion that makes average people uncomfortable. You're not here to blend in. You're here to become undeniable. And if you feel resistance, good. That means you're in the right place. That means you're pushing past the version of yourself that has kept you quiet, distracted, and small. That resistance isn't telling you to stop. It's begging you to continue. Because on the other side of it is your evolution, your shift, your new level, and once you step into that level, you'll never go back to who you used to be. Why? Because your standard won't let you. Chapter 8. Force yourself to embrace resistance. The moment you stop running from resistance is the moment everything begins to change. That pressure you're feeling, that hesitation in your chest, that tightening in your gut when something feels bigger than you think you're ready for, that's not a warning sign to turn back. That's the door to your next level. That's the invitation to transform. That is life, handing you the weight, daring you to get stronger. Resistance is not your enemy. Resistance is proof you're on the right path. You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when they challenge you. And the truth is, the bigger your dreams, the more resistance you're going to feel. So if you're serious about changing your life, if you're done living in circles and ready to move forward for real this time, you need to stop avoiding resistance and start walking right into it. The mistake so many people make is thinking resistance means something's wrong. They feel uncomfortable and think it means they're not ready. They feel fear and assume it's a red light. But what they don't realize is that discomfort isn't a reason to stop. It's the signal to move. Every single time you step into a new version of yourself, resistance is going to show up. That's part of the process. Because when you try to upgrade, your old self fights back. Your mind starts panicking, your body hesitates, and your environment might even push against you. Why? Because you're stretching. You're stepping beyond what's familiar. You're reaching into territory your habits don't recognize. And that friction you feel, that's not a problem. That's growth trying to happen. You have to get to a point where you start craving that feeling, not because it's comfortable, but because you understand what it means. It means progress. It means movement. It means you're not coasting through life anymore. It means you're not hiding behind routines that don't serve you. It means you're showing up for yourself in ways that actually build something real. You know why resistance feels heavy? Because you've been carrying the same version of yourself for too long. And now that you're trying to become more, it hurts. That's normal. That's good. Pain is part of the process, and every time you avoid it, you delay your own breakthrough. Let's make this clear. Growth is not smooth. It's gritty. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. You will doubt yourself. You will feel stretched. You will wonder if you're doing the right thing. But that doesn't mean stop. That means lean in. That means go harder. That means trust the tension. Because when you feel that resistance and you keep going anyway, you are building the muscle that success demands. Not physical muscle, mental, emotional, spiritual strength. The kind of strength that shows up when everything in you wants to quit, but you keep showing up. The kind of strength that people feel in your presence because you've earned it through fire. That kind of strength is only built in resistance. You have to stop looking for the easy way. Easy doesn't change you. Easy never changed anyone. What changes you is pushing yourself when your legs are shaking, when your heart is racing, when your mind is screaming for you to stop. And you look all of that in the face and say, not today. That's power. That's ownership. That's how you rise. The reason some people evolve and others stay stuck isn't because they had more talent or more time. It's because they stopped running from resistance. They faced it head on. They used it as fuel. They stopped complaining about how hard it was and started embracing the fact that hard is what makes it worth it. Think about the version of yourself that you know you're capable of becoming. The version that's focused, disciplined, clear, powerful. That version is not going to show up while you're avoiding discomfort. That version lives on the other side of it. That version is built every time you force yourself to do the thing you don't want to do. Every time you get up when it would be easier to stay down. Every time you make the tough decision when the easy one is begging for your attention. That version is forged in resistance, and the longer you run from it, the longer you delay meeting the person you were born to become. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be earned. If everything you wanted came without resistance, it would be meaningless. The grind, the pain, the setbacks, those are what give your growth value. And when you start facing those things on purpose, when you start choosing the hard path, because you know where it leads, you become different. You move differently. You think differently. You become someone who doesn't need life to go easy, because you've become strong enough to go through it anyway. You can't just want the reward. You have to be willing to handle the resistance that comes with it. You want a better body. The resistance is in every workout you don't want to do. You want financial freedom. The resistance is in every moment you have to stay disciplined while others spend. You want mental peace. The resistance is in every time you choose to sit with your emotions instead of running from them. It's all connected. Everything you want is on the other side of resistance. So don't ask for it to be easier. Ask to be stronger. Don't hope the resistance goes away. Learn how to face it and keep moving forward anyway. And here's what most people never figure out. The more you walk through resistance, the more confident you become. You stop being afraid of challenges. You stop second-guessing yourself, because you've built a history of facing hard things and surviving them. Your brain starts to rewire. Your nervous system starts to regulate under pressure. Your decisions become sharper. Your presence becomes heavier. You walk into rooms and people feel something different. That's the result of embracing resistance. You become unshakable, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. The next time you feel the resistance creeping in, that pull to delay, that urge to stop, that voice saying it's too hard, you remind yourself that this is where the transformation lives. This is not the moment to pull back. This is the moment to double down. This is the moment where the average quit and the elite lean in. Be the one who leans in. Be the one who builds while others break. Be the one who walks into the fire and comes out cleaner, clearer, and sharper than before. You're not here to avoid the weight. You're here to carry it and become stronger. You're not here to tiptoe around pressure. You're here to walk into it and show it who you are. Resistance is not here to stop you. It's here to test you, and you don't pass the test by waiting for it to disappear. You pass the test by showing up anyway. So don't resist the resistance. Embrace it, because on the other side of it is everything you've been chasing. And now, it's your move. Chapter 9. Force yourself to finish what you start. If you want to separate yourself from 99% of the people walking this planet, become the kind of person who finishes what they start. Because starting is easy. Starting doesn't require much. You get inspired. You get an idea. The excitement rushes in, and suddenly you're in motion. That's not the challenge. The challenge is sticking with it when the high wears off, when the road gets messy, when the shine fades and all that's left is the grind. That's the moment where most people walk away. That's the exact point where potential dies quietly and they move on to the next thing, never realizing how close they actually were to something great. And if you don't want that to be your story, then you have to build the habit of finishing. No matter what. No matter how long it takes. No matter how unmotivated you feel. Because finishing is a decision. It's a standard. And once you make it a part of who you are, your entire life shifts to match that energy. Think about how many projects you've started. How many ideas you've talked about. How many goals you've written down. Now think about how many of them you actually completed. And I'm not talking about half finished and gave up. I mean actually followed through to the very end. closed the loop, completed the cycle, executed. The difference between the person you are and the person you want to be is found in those unfinished things. Because the ability to finish isn't just about productivity, it's about identity. When you consistently leave things incomplete, you send a message to your subconscious that says, "I don't follow through." And once that belief takes root, it begins to bleed into everything you do. Suddenly, it's not just projects that you don't finish, it's habits, it's routines, it's relationships. It becomes a lifestyle of getting close but never crossing the finish line. But the good news is that can be reversed. You can become the kind of person who sees things through. You can train your brain to close every loop, to shut every open door, to walk through the fire until you get to the other side. And it starts with one simple rule: don't stop because it got boring, hard, or frustrating. Stop when it's done. Stop when the mission is complete. Stop when you've squeezed every ounce of value out of the process. That's how finishers think. They don't let emotion dictate effort. They don't let discomfort become a valid reason to quit. They stay locked in. And that mental toughness creates a different kind of confidence because it's earned through follow-through, not just ambition. You see, when you start something and don't finish, it lingers in your mind like background noise. You might not think it's affecting you, but it is. Every unfinished task is a silent drain on your energy. It clutters your focus. It pulls at your attention. It becomes this invisible weight that holds you back from being fully present in your next move. And that's why finishing matters. It's not just about achievement, it's about mental clarity. It's about peace. It's about knowing you did what you said you would do. That kind of integrity isn't optional if you want to live with purpose. It's the foundation of self-respect. So the next time you start something, ask yourself before you begin, am I willing to follow through when it stops being exciting? Am I willing to push when no one's watching? Am I committed to seeing this all the way through, even if no one claps, even if the reward is delayed, even if it takes way longer than I thought? Because that's what finishing really demands. Not perfection, not talent, just pure grit, and a refusal to let temporary discomfort become permanent regret. You've got to stop treating your commitments like optional suggestions. You made a promise to yourself. Keep it, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because those are the moments that build character, that build discipline, that build the identity of someone who always completes what they begin. This isn't about being robotic. It's not about never changing course. If you're moving in a direction that no longer aligns with your purpose or values, then absolutely reevaluate. But don't use that as a cover for quitting something just because it got uncomfortable. Be honest with yourself. Did it really stop serving you, or did you just get tired? Did it really lose meaning, or did you just lose focus? That kind of honesty will save you from living in patterns that look productive but actually keep you stuck in circles. And here's the part that nobody likes to admit. The closer you get to finishing something, the louder the resistance becomes. It's strange, but it's real. The final stretch is often the hardest. It's where your old habits scream the loudest. It's where your brain throws every excuse it can to get you to stop. But that's the exact moment you double down. That's where you remind yourself who you're becoming. That's where you build the kind of internal strength that can't be faked. You push through. You shut out the noise. You finish what you started. Because every time you finish something, whether it's a workout, a book, a project, a goal, you're rewiring your brain to believe that you are someone who follows through. That belief multiplies. It carries into your self-image. It builds momentum, and momentum creates movement in every other area of your life. Suddenly, you're not just showing up stronger, you're thinking clearer, acting bolder, and handling life with more resilience. Because now you've got proof. Not theories, not ideas, results, tangible wins. And those wins were built one completed commitment at a time. You don't need to start 10 more things to feel productive. You need to finish what's already on your plate. You need to clean up the open loops. You need to go back to those goals you abandoned halfway and decide, do I still want this? If the answer is yes, then act like it. Get back to work. No whining, no waiting, just effort, just execution. And if the answer is no, then close it properly. End it with intention. Don't leave it hanging. Closure is powerful. It gives you back your energy and focus. It creates space for something better. But that space should never be filled with more half-hearted attempts. It should be filled with deliberate, purposeful follow-through. You've got what it takes to finish. You've always had it. You just need to stop doubting yourself every time things slow down. You just need to stop hitting pause when you should be sprinting. You just need to remind yourself why you started and decide that quitting is not your identity anymore. You're here to complete. You're here to close. You're here to finish strong. Every single time. That mindset, that's rare. And that rarity will make you unstoppable. Chapter 10. Force yourself to win the first hour. The way you start your day sets the tone for everything. Not just your morning, not just your tasks, but your mindset, your energy, your momentum, everything. That first hour, the one that so many people treat like it doesn't matter, is one of the most powerful weapons you will ever have in your life. If you master it, you create leverage over your entire day. If you waste it, you put yourself in a reactive state where you're playing catch-up before you even begin. Winning the first hour isn't about being perfect or robotic. It's about putting yourself in the driver's seat, locking in your focus, and making sure the day bends to your direction, not the other way around. You have to realize, the first hour is where most people lose. It's where they hit snooze. It's where they scroll their phone for 20 minutes. It's where they rush through a routine, reacting to notifications, emails, distractions, before they've even taken a moment to think for themselves. And then they wonder why they feel behind, why they feel scattered, why they're overwhelmed before the day has even properly started. It's because they gave up control without even noticing. But once you become conscious of how powerful that first hour really is, and once you build the discipline to dominate it, everything starts to change. You wake up with intention instead of obligation. You begin your day with control instead of chaos. And you start developing an inner momentum that's nearly impossible to stop. Because momentum doesn't just come from energy, it comes from alignment. And when your actions line up with who you want to become, when your habits begin to reflect the future you're trying to build, you walk through the day with an edge. You stop reacting to life, and you start creating it. That's the difference. That's what changes your trajectory. Not a perfect plan, not a complicated routine, just a powerful commitment to own your mornings instead of wasting them. And no, you don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. to do this. It's not about a specific hour, it's about what you do with it. It's about deciding that the first part of your day belongs to your purpose, your discipline, your mindset. Not to the world, not to other people, not to your weaknesses. It belongs to you. Because if you can win that small battle, first thing in the morning, if you can prove to yourself right away that you are capable, that you are focused, that you are locked in, then you've already built the mental momentum that makes everything else easier. That's not motivation. That's structure. That's strategy. That's how professionals live. You don't stumble into greatness by waking up late, grabbing your phone, skipping over your thoughts, and walking into the day like a machine stuck on autopilot. You create greatness by stacking small wins early. You hydrate your body. You move your muscles. You lock your focus. You feed your mind. You remind yourself of your mission, and you do it before the world tries to steal your attention. Because once the world wakes up, it's going to pull on you from every direction. If you don't ground yourself early, you will drift through your day, reacting instead of driving. And that's where anxiety lives. That's where mental fatigue multiplies. That's where you lose the edge. But when you wake up and execute, when you follow a plan instead of winging it, when you make even the smallest progress toward your goals before breakfast, you're telling your brain that this day belongs to you. You're not hoping to feel strong. You're deciding that you are. You're not waiting for the right mood. You're creating the right energy. And that kind of mental toughness doesn't just change your day, it builds you into someone who thrives under pressure. Someone who doesn't flinch when life throws curveballs, because you've already shown yourself, before most people even get moving, that you have the discipline to lead your own life. You have to stop handing your mornings over to weakness. Stop giving your energy to mindless scrolling, to passive thoughts, to soft habits that don't serve your future. Stop saying I'll start strong tomorrow, and realize that every time you delay, you reinforce the identity of someone who lets life control them. That's not who you're here to be. You're here to be sharp. You're here to be focused. You're here to execute. And the first hour is the battleground where that version of you is either created or abandoned. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first. Discipline always does. But the discomfort of effort is always less painful than the regret of wasted time. You will never look back and say, I wish I slept in longer, or I wish I started my day more distracted. You will only ever wish you had started earlier. You will only ever wish you had taken yourself seriously sooner. So don't let another week pass with sloppy starts. Don't keep giving the best part of your energy to things that don't grow you. Don't keep acting like you have forever. You don't. But you do have today. You do have this hour. And what you do with it matters more than you think. You don't need 100 tasks. You don't need to meditate for an hour, or do a perfect workout or journal like a monk. You just need structure. You need to know that the first 30, 45, 60 minutes of your day are sacred. They are non-negotiable. They are the fuel for the rest of your momentum. And once you lock that in, once you treat it like a priority instead of an option, you will start to feel the power that lives in routine. You will start to feel the results multiply faster. Because life doesn't reward intensity, it rewards consistency. And consistency starts with a strong morning. This isn't just about building a habit. This is about building your identity. The person who wins the first hour is the person who shows up better all day, stronger, clearer, calmer. That version of you, the one you keep visualizing, the one you keep chasing, is built with actions, not words, not intentions. And one of the most impactful actions you can take is to dominate your first hour like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. You are training your nervous system. You are training your thoughts. You are training your emotional reactions. You are preparing yourself to lead, to perform, to evolve. That first hour isn't just preparation, it's transformation. Every single day, it gives you another opportunity to become stronger, but only if you treat it like it matters. Only if you show up for it like it's a gift, not a burden. So tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off, don't negotiate, don't hesitate, don't scroll, move, rise, hydrate, breathe, reflect, push, and remind yourself that this is your time. that before the world even has a chance to distract you, you've already locked into who you are. That's not motivation, that's ownership. And ownership changes everything.